real pleasure to be back here in Bratislava. And have you all just finished seeing the film? So you're all feeling pretty both shattered and uplifted by the film and by the final scene. Okay, so you're kind of emotionally raw, I imagine. So I've now I saw the film again this morning for the second time, and I was just reminded of what Roland Barthes said, which was, he said, he pitied all those people who only ever read new books. They don't reread books. And he said, poor people who don't reread books, all they're ever reading is novelty, is the new, right? Yeah. And I felt that very strongly on the second viewing of the film, because this is a film that works on so many levels and that's so rich that I recommend to you to all see it again very soon. That said, it works on many levels, but I thought that it'd be good to spend just the half hour that we have just focusing on one question. And it was one question that I had very strongly and felt very strongly on my first viewing. It was an open question then, and that I got some way towards an answer on my second viewing, and I'm not going to tell you what my answer is. But the question is, who or what is the white god? And I don't know whether you've come out of the film saying, oh yeah, of course, white god is so-and-so. Anyone have a strong sense coming out of the film of what the white god is? Why was it called White God? It's obviously not the only way of reading the film. I mean, as I say, it's a hugely rich film. We could read the film as a film about coming of age. We could read it as a film about music. We could read it as a film about Hungary. We could read it as a political film. We could say, okay, this is about how do we repair a world that's been so formed and shaped by the violence that we've done to it and to each other. All these are possible ways in. So I don't want to, unnaturally focus on this one question of the white god. But after all, these Cornell and Kat chose that. So since we're here, let's try and focus this conversation on what is the white god. It seems to me, so I'll be done in 2 minutes and I'll let you talk, but just this is what's in my mind as I'm going to be talking. It's okay, in a sense, you give a film a title, White God, it's the first thing you know about the film, and it says to you, as a viewer, two things. What are the gods? Who are the gods? What is a god? And what colour are they? And it seemed to me that the film has actually lots of god figures. We've got Hagen, obviously. We have the father. We have the orchestra conductor. We have the dog trainer. We have the keeper of the dog home. We have Lily. We even have Trixie, who I think in some ways is a god. We have the pianist, the boy. He's probably not a god, but he has a relationship to the gods. And we have the music. The music as being very, very formative in it. They're all gods. They all have different colours. So I'm going to go through that list and ask questions, and maybe you two can think in your minds, are those gods? What colours do they have? What sense can we make of this film? So the obvious one to start with is Hagen. In Wagner, Hagen tries to grab the ring, doesn't he? Yeah. In the Nibelung. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your use of Wagner, Hagen? Hagen, in that sense, in the Nordic tale, is not a god, is stopped by the gods from gaining power. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, when we are thinking what kind of name is the best for the dog, it was really difficult and long time we found Hagen from the Wagner myths because he's the most revolutionary figure in my mind in the Wagner world, and yes, he's stopped by the gods, and he's really planning the revenge, and in one sense he have the truth for the revenge, and who is rebel for his state against his state, and his rebel against it, and this is the story of our dog. Like he's happy as his state as to be a dog, and when he's kicked out, and when he's ill-humanate, and when he's became more and more human, and he's really would like to understand his truth, and that's why he started to be rebel against his state as a dog. So he's really have a moral part, which is, I mean, I'm sure dogs has, and this moral part used and be a revolutionary revenge hero. And it's really a classical hero. So that's why we use also the name from the Wagner world, and Hagen is one of the real classical hero. I mean, in my eyes, more than Siegfried.
Okay, so I that's very, very interesting, but I'm going to, so I think that obviously gives Hagen a central position in the story, and as you say, it's a story of Hagen becoming human. So that wonderful moment when you have the news at the end saying the most frightening thing is they're not behaving like animals anymore, right? Yeah. The frightening thing is they're behaving like humans. So it's the birth of the human, and it's the taking of power. But I still want to continue. So let's drop Hagen as a candidate for God, because actually there's another thing which it seems to me, there are several scenes, particularly towards the end in the dog fights, in the various dog fights, in which you pick out some white dogs, but some white dogs that aren't Hagen. So it seems to me, Hagen, okay, he's an important character, but for me, Hagen is not white God.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the father. Kat, maybe you can. The father is another authority figure. Of course, the father is this, has this extraordinary job in the authority figure. He's part of the industrialized machinery of meat eating. He makes meat eating safe by looking at the heart, at the entrails of things. It's hugely powerful, and he works in this castle-like place that's in fact an abattoir. He's an authority figure, and of course, he's very harsh on Lily at the beginning, but he's one of the characters who goes through a transformation in the film, a real transformation, when he accepts Lily. So we have Lily with the bubbles, the bubble machine. Yeah, yeah. When she says, "I'm not a child," and then when he picks her up from the police station, says, "Shake my hand." It's a moment when he acknowledges. He also breaks down in tears when he says, "I've lost someone I loved." So can you tell us about the father, and the father as a possible, as a figure of God?
Well, of course, I believe that this story is a story of different perspectives. And of course, you can pick out many perspectives of this story and who is whose God within the story. So we can say that maybe the father is a God figure for Lily, somehow, but I wouldn't say for the audience. And of course, the whole story deals somehow with autocracy. So we wanted to find a father figure who is very autocratic. And, well, as for the motives of him, I think mostly we wanted to establish a triangle, which could work somehow as a love triangle, but it's very hidden. It's not a love story, but you can say that the father is very jealous on his daughter and her affection towards the dog. So I think he wants to be a father, God figure for Lily, but cannot, and that is like the point. How can you lift such a monster to the position where I should be? And I think it's a very on one level why this film works is because of these basic instincts that you feel within the frame of the story, that it's something that you just can't explain why, but it's like a jealousy that you wouldn't, if you tell to a father, are you jealous on that dog? He would refuse this. It is not in the word of our intellectual, like we wouldn't accept this, but like under the story there are these motives, and I think that's why it's working somehow as a tale. So there are hidden things under the surface which are more important somehow than the ones that we can talk about. So I mean, and that's why I'm saying this is a story of different perspectives. Yes, different gods for different participants of this story.
Yeah, and of course, what you point to there is the whole. I mean, it's a whole coming of age film as well. And when he says, you are not sleeping with the dog. I mean, this is very clear. It's a very clear message from a father, right? And of course, the dog is naturally skillfully humanized, turned into a human in many ways, whether it's a Roma human or just any other. I thought there was one thing I picked up, which was very striking for me, is that Lily is a kind of dog. She is being trained. She's being trained by her father. She's being trained by the conductor. And she's being trained to become something. That's also the coming of age. And so, of course, it's natural that Lily and the dog should sympathize and form one. Yeah. They are both, the dog is the other, but the dog is also us. Yeah. So that brings that idea of training and the god as training brings me on to the conductor. Yeah. I thought the scene where you have her say, do you want to teach us the trumpet, or do you want to teach us to lie on Tannhauser? You wouldn't understand, you don't understand love. And the scene after that is the scene where he sits her down. He's dressed in black, I think. He sits her down. He's playing with his phone like this. Yeah. And saying, play the trumpet. And he says, yeah, that's good. That's good. Can you tell us about the conductor as an authority figure and a trainer?
Actually, I have lots of memories of that kind of figure from my school age, yeah, and so all of the figures, if you are concentrate on them, is D-class figures. So also the father was in a university. This conductor was a conductor for a real orchestra, and now he is working as a leader of a children orchestra, and he's unhappy about that. And here in Hungary or in Eastern Europe, we have lots of declassified story because the amount of the castles or amount of the places is not so much. So you easily can have that kind of roots, which creates your frustration. And on your frustration, if you are talented, both guys, even the conductor or also the father, have a playful thinking. They are intellectuals in a way. They are, a lovable beasts. It's not really just, very dry autocratic figures. Of course, a scene when we are working on, and he's at the first time, we just ask him to work with Lily on an autocratic way. And then on the pause, in the break, he's starting using his phone as well, while we change the lens of the camera, and we said, oh, that's good. We are much closer now to the point. He is doing, but he is also negatively doing. So he's inside the situation and outside on that situation. And this is our society, where you have this role, which is your way. You must find your way if you want it to be successful. Like in a coming of age story for Lily, means she have a role, and she's good for the role almost till the end point. You know, you are coming with her, and there are signs on the way, and one of them, also the father, is really a bright sign, but also this figure is a bright sign. Actually, he do good music. So this, I mean, also the Hungarian Rhapsody, which is kind of a stereotypic Hungarian music. I really love it, though, because it really comes from an attitude which is closer to the dogs than how we place it today's society. But yeah, so he's also as an artist, and he's working with music, which is working with art on that way, which is very contradicted. I felt this is also just tell you which is your way to start to lie. Start to lie against yourself. And of course we are very excited, hopefully, through the movie, that what is the decision of Lily at the end.
Okay. So can you tell us about another trainer? So Lily is being trained to be part of an orchestra, to be part of society, to contribute what she can contribute, to do it brilliantly, etc. There's a wonderful late scene in which the father puts her shoe on as she prepares to go to the concert where she will perform, and she will be transformed into this member of society, as it were. Doing everything she's expected to do. But let's talk about now the other trainer, the dog trainer. He of course is also he's not declassed. He's underclass, and he's part of that underclass where one feels that the principle that he's following is do to others what they've done to you. Don't do to others how you would like them to do to you, but what they have done to you. And he's been in prison, and he's a violent man. And he trains Hagen to become Max, to become the powerful killing machine. And you have at the end of the dog scene, when the lights go out, you have one of the members of the underworld saying, "The Jippo's barking."
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that, and can you tell us about the theme running throughout the film of Roma people? So I presume that the translation in English was Jippo, which is a very charged word for a Roma person. Yeah. Is that the Hungarian?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I think for us this trainer is a person who brings the lesson to be learned, like how to kill. Because basically killing would not come from the dog itself, but it comes. We really like the idea that it comes from a human being, and I think at this point we have a lot of references that we also wanted to use, like big parabolas use this, where you have to go to the underworld, you have to meet like the bad power, the black power, in order to reveal yourself, like to escape somehow. So it's like really the depths of the whole story, and also a society which is behind all these characters which we have seen, because we have seen these declassed characters, but what is under this really, and also the reference to the gypsies is. And also when we saw documentaries, how they use dog fights, like dogs for fighting, it is so horrible that it's really, you just can't see more of this. It's like a bit of it which is, in the deep, where you understand that the society is completely rotten. But I think Cornel can maybe tell more on this, because it was... Actually, this was a bit improvisation on the actors also, that scene, since it was very hard to shoot it. Especially this part also, it's true for the whole story, that it was not that easy to adapt the behavior of the dogs to the film we wanted to make. But especially this part, we shoot it for a day, like how to make it believable. was not that easy.
Yeah. Exactly, but it was, it's filmmaking. Of course, nobody had no problems.
Yeah.
None of the dogs. But even that was really important, and the key moment for us to understand this guy was how much he loves the dog. How at the end, their relation was also very real. It was kind of a sadomasochistic, relation in between them. And when he lost it, then he went crazy, but not because I trained the killing dog. But he's really connected with lots of emotion to the dog, and I think that was the key. And it's also coming from the guy we choose for that. He's a very warm character in life.
Yeah.
He was. He's understanding, and it's just where you are like underclass, but when you lost your humanity. And you would like to be human in your heart. So your heart is love, your killing machine. And it's still a great contradictions where you felt that the way for Hagen, also his path is the most important meeting with this man.
Yeah, it's interesting because it reminded me. You have him when the dog trainer selects Hagen. Yeah. You have him saying, "You still have a heart," which is, and in a sense, it's the existence, the possibility of forming that real bond, which he knows makes him able to turn him into a killing machine, because you have to love to kill, and that's it's the sacrifice that is asked of Hagen, and of course the trainer also wants the money, right? Although in a way that humanity and that love is only it does appear there, but what he really wants is the money there, right? That's his real motivation. Lots more to say about that, but rushing through the list before we run out of time, I did want to spend a moment on the keeper of the dog home, who I thought was a fascinating character. Yeah. Because so that we see her in lots of guises. Hagen also sees her euthanizing a dog, sending the dog to heaven, in which she says, "You will be better there." While Hagen is looking at a Disney film, and the Disney film with the Hungarian Rhapsody, right? So Disney or anyway a cartoon, a Hollywood cartoon of a kind of ideal, and actually in a sense she's a good woman. And the dogs don't take revenge on her, don't kill her on their way out. Yeah. So can you say something about her and her position in your imagination there?
I think for us she is like the good witch somehow, like like a medium, like an oraculum, somehow, getting us and also Lily closer to the big answers. And I think that's why she's so important for us. And
she's the one who is in between the two worlds. So I think in between life and death, but also between the human world and the animal world, but also the existence of a dog. It's very special because in my opinion, genetically, the closest one is the monkey. But in real life, the closest one is the dog. We work with them, we love with them, we are living with them since, 1,000 years now. And they are the most human animal. And she's really in between. And it's not a secret that we have a great inspiration of a book by South African author Curzon, Disgrace, and there is a figure of Bev Shaw. We use name as well in White God Bev, which is not a Hungarian name at all, just to show this is almost the same figure, and she is also in that book in when the whites leaving South Africa. And they stays the dogs. And there was a couple, the Bev Shaw and John Shaw and Bev Shaw, who collecting those dogs to kill them, but on a human way, and not just be all over in the land, in the country. And it was so genius. I mean, so fantastic. It is. I mean, in my eyes, Curzon is really one of the top author. I mean, who's affect me very much the last 10 years to understand contemporary questions, contemporary problems, and contemporary form even. So Bev is really that kind of character for me.
Yes, and someone who is really truthful. I really love a sentence from that book which tells somehow, I couldn't quote it correctly, but that these people in the post-apartheid, these whites escaped from South Africa and they left their dogs here as furnitures. They left here the TVs and they left here the chairs and the dogs. So it's like it has the same quality, like people didn't care about them at all. And I think that gets us closer to the answers, what white God means or how we, yeah.
That's great. Let in the last couple of minutes, let's cover more than we can possibly cover, but let's cover together both Lily and the music, which I think both are very important. So Lily, who is diminutive of Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the heroine of Tannhauser in some sense. Tannhauser plays a very central role. Elizabeth in Tannhauser is the ideal who's opposed to Venus. She is in the sense the ideal of love. Against the bad love of Venus, possibly Trixie. So you have that Wagnerian theme, but then you mostly the music you use is Liszt, is not Wagner. Yeah. So the themes are Wagnerian, the text is Wagnerian, and the music is Liszt. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see the horns and the Hungarian Rhapsody in the film? It seems to me that it also plays a central part in its construction.
Yeah, very much. So first we felt that she's become just a normal schoolgirl, but after we transformed for a music school, and then was really a long time we went through the history of music just to see which part is the best, and then we choose the most obvious Hungarian music ever had, which is the Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody. And actually there was composed first just for piano. And the piano piece is really rebel. It's really like, when we need the truth, we are not under the Austrian Empire. We are revolutionary. We love freedom. We would like to be identify ourselves as Hungarian. This kind of rebellish attitude inside, which is also coming a little bit from the folk music, which he used that. Later Bartók used it the same. Later Ligeti and Kurták used it the same treasure from the folk music. So and then we found that it's the less intellectual. It's good for a young orchestra, because it's stereotypic today. Still has the sense of the truth of the music, and then we felt, because all girls play more like cello or violin, that's not good for her. So for her character, it's much more like a little like army. And this is the horn is really the most ancient one, which comes from the
hunting horn,
the hunting horn, even from the ancient age, when the humans not talking, then they do rhythm, and with the horning from after the hunt, exactly, and it's for the war, and it's also the Hungaro-Austrian instrument is this horn. When they are go for the war, they're using, and we have we have these motives. So that's why we use it, the horn, for her, which is never happen in a young orchestra. I mean, also, the musicians started to laughing. You wanted to use it with your tongue. I mean, it's crazy.
So, Kat, in our you'll have the last word because we have to wrap up now. But moving on from that, it seems to me that there's this. You have an extraordinary tableau at the end, where the oppressed, the other, the whatever, however we want to make the dogs, those who've suffered, those whom we've done such violence to, they are calmed, and they're calmed by this fearless woman who's playing the Hungarian Rhapsody and who has her father in the background, and you end up this extraordinary picture which looks like the dome of a cathedral, right? The dogs are all lying down. The two humans are at this equal level lying down, and they've all been calmed by the music. So tell us how you imagine and think of that last tableau.
I think it's just that beautiful idea when we think that art can somehow connect people, and that there are things which we can't reach with intellectuality, but I wouldn't say emotions, because it's more of that. It's not just emotions, but like through body language, as music, I would say it's also a material. So it's not that much of a feeling, but like a material which reaches directly your heart. And I think it's a very idealistic ending, which we then wanted to trick a bit with the last sentence so that it won't last so long. But also like bringing the ancient story but also bringing the ancient story of making the beast sleeping with the music, or the lions, how to survive, like to calm down all the bad feelings.
That's great. I think we've come to the end of our half hour. I don't know whether you've got any further as the audience in thinking about the white god. I've certainly understood more about the white god. I don't know if you want to say anything about the white god as a final moment to leave us with.
I mean, I can say what I've had. We're really looking for a title which has perspectives and great contradictions. And the great contradictions inside the two, and the connection in between the two words, as you said, God, which is the most religious belief of human, the nicest idea of human. If I'm a not believer, if I'm a believer, then God is the God. How can be coloring the God? I mean, it's a question. You can say that, white God, or you can't say that. So can I have the white God of a dog, or I cannot be a white God of a dog, but an equal partner? So that was our question, and we really would like to stamp this movie as also a philosophical journey, and not just a thriller, coming of age, and whatever other ruins of forms which we used through this journey. So that's why we choose this one, and always why, and it's a good sign for me still.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.